This corner, today's tales are based on Labor Day vacations. Enjoy.
Labor Day weekend. For most people, it's the final chance to enjoy summer before the chill of fall sets in. Families gather for barbecues, friends head to the beach, and travelers escape to cabins and campgrounds. But sometimes, that final summer getaway can turn into a nightmare you never forget. Tonight's story is about a Labor Day vacation that started like a dream and ended in a chilling encounter with something that should never have been disturbed. It was the first Friday of September when my friends and I rented a lakeside cabin in upstate New York. The place was old, but it had that rustic charm you'd expect. Wooden beams, a stone fireplace, and wide windows that looked out over the lake. The owner had warned us that the cabin was isolated, with no cell service and only one dirt road leading in. But that was exactly what we wanted. Peace, quiet, a chance to disconnect. We arrived just before dusk, and as the sun set, the lake shimmered like glass. Everything seemed perfect. We unpacked, grilled some food, and laughed late into the night. But even as the fire crackled, I couldn't shake the feeling that the woods surrounding us were watching. The stillness felt too heavy, like the silence was holding its breath. That first night, something strange happened. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps on the creaking floorboards. At first, I thought one of my friends had gotten up for water. But when I peeked out of my room, the living room was empty. The footsteps didn't sound like anyone moving with a purpose. They shuffled, slow and deliberate, circling the cabin. Then, I heard knocking. 3 slow knocks against the cabin wall. I froze. Everyone else was still asleep, their doors shut. Summoning what courage I had, I whispered through the door, "Who's there?" The knocking stopped. Silence. When I finally opened the door, no one was there. Just the stillness of the cabin and the faint rustle of leaves outside. The next morning, I tried to shake off the unease. We spent the day swimming in the lake, fishing, and exploring the woods. Everything seemed normal again. But when we returned to the cabin, we found something chilling. Wet footprints led from the edge of the lake, across the porch, and up to the front door. They were bare feet, larger than mine, yet oddly narrow. None of us had walked up barefoot from the water, and when we checked, the prints weren't ours. They seemed to appear out of nowhere, and vanish just as suddenly at the threshold of the door. My friend nervously joked that maybe it was the ghost of some drowned camper. We all laughed, but deep down, we weren't so sure. That night, things escalated. Around midnight, the power flickered and went out, plunging the cabin into darkness. We lit candles and tried to ignore the unease, but then the noises started again, scratching against the windows, slow dragging steps on the porch, and then the sound of water dripping inside the house, though no faucets were running. One of my friends shouted, convinced someone was messing with us. He threw open the front door, only to find the porch empty, except for a puddle of water, and those same wet footprints leading away from the door, back toward the woods. We locked the door and sat in silence, listening to the faint sound of someone, or something, walking circles around the cabin until dawn. By the last day, none of us were laughing anymore. We packed early, eager to leave. But before we could load the car, I noticed something carved into the wood of the cabin's porch railing. 4 words, deep and jagged. "Don't come back." The carving was wet, as if it had just been scratched in, and right below the words, another set of dripping footprints, fresh and leading back toward the lake. We didn't stick around to investigate. We grabbed our bags, shoved them in the car, and sped down that dirt road as fast as we could. None of us looked back. To this day, I don't know what was haunting that cabin. Was it a spirit from the lake? A warning from something that lived in the woods? Or maybe something far older, tied to the land itself? All I know is, every Labor Day since then, when the air grows cool and the nights come quicker, I remember those wet footprints, and I remember the words carved into the wood. "Don't come back. Would you?" Labor Day weekend was supposed to be nothing more than a quiet getaway. My girlfriend and I wanted to escape the city, so we booked a small rental on Roanoke Island in North Carolina. I'd always been fascinated by the mystery of the lost colony, how over 100 settlers vanished without a trace in the late 1500s, leaving behind only the word Croatoan carved into a post. It was one of those unsolved American legends that kept me up at night as a kid. So, when I saw a chance to spend Labor Day in Roanoke, I thought it would be fun. Spooky history, ocean air, maybe a ghost tour if we were lucky. What I didn't expect was that we would end up living part of that history ourselves. We arrived late Friday evening. The house was charming, a little weather-worn but cozy. From the back porch, we could see the marshes stretching toward the water, the reeds swaying like whispering voices. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the whole island seemed to fall into silence. No cars, no chatter, just the hum of cicadas and the occasional splash from the marsh. That night, as we unpacked, I noticed something odd. The rental host had left a hand-drawn map of the area on the kitchen counter. In bold black ink, 3 X's were marked in the woods nearby, and in shaky handwriting, a warning. Do not follow the voices after dark. I laughed nervously, assuming it was some local folklore they left for tourists. My girlfriend, though, wasn't amused. On Saturday, we explored. The tourist sites were fun enough. Replicas of colonial houses, museums, trails where the settlers once lived. But the further we walked from the crowds, the heavier the air felt. The trees grew close together, and the forest floor was littered with strange symbols made from sticks and stones. At first, I thought it was art from kids or tourists, until I realized the designs weren't random. They were repeating patterns, spirals and crosses, all pointing deeper into the woods. That night, things turned. Around midnight, I woke to the sound of whispers outside the bedroom window. At first, I thought it was just the wind through the reeds. But then I heard distinct words. Come back to us. The voices sounded layered, like dozens of people whispering at once. My girlfriend clutched my arm, her eyes wide. She'd heard it too. Then came the footsteps. Bare feet slapping against wet ground, circling the house slowly, dragging, like people rising from the marsh. We sat frozen until dawn. By Sunday, the island felt like a trap. We tried to brush it off, but both of us kept catching glimpses of figures in the corner of our eyes. Pale faces between the trees, shapes moving just beyond the reeds. That evening, against better judgment, I pulled out the host's map again. The 3 X's marked in the woods. Something in me, curiosity, maybe arrogance, pushed me to see what was out there. We left just before sunset, following the trail into the trees. The deeper we went, the quieter everything became. No insects, no wind, no birds, just silence. And then, we reached the first X. A tree stood in the clearing, its bark stripped away. Carved deep into the trunk was a single word. Croatoan, fresh, as if it had been etched that very day. At the second X, we found remnants of a fire pit. The ashes were cold, but scattered around it were scraps of old fabric, torn and faded, the kind you'd expect from centuries ago. And, at the third X, we found the marsh. And that's where we saw them. Figures rising from the water. Dozens of them, their faces pale, hollow-eyed, mouths moving in silence. They reached out with trembling hands, dripping with mud and black water. And then, in one horrible instant, they all whispered in unison. Stay with us. Don't leave again. We ran. Through the trees, through the silence, not daring to look back until we reached the house. We left Roanoke at sunrise on Monday. We didn't even bother locking the door behind us. As we crossed the bridge off the island, I glanced in the rearview mirror. And I swear, on the railing of the bridge, scratched deep into the wood, were the same words we'd seen carved into the tree. Croatoan. Only this time, the letters were still wet, dripping. And I knew then, some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some ghosts never let go. And every Labor Day since, I've wondered, if we'd stayed one more night, would we have become the next ones to vanish?